When the world loses its shine, something inside us begins to call for help. Sometimes it is silent, almost imperceptible. Sometimes it is an emptiness, a fatigue, a heaviness you can't quite explain, and almost always it is a calling. Today marks the first transition of this channel. From this moment on, two guiding voices walk with us: Carl Rogers, the advocate of authenticity and healing through understanding, and Hélio Couto, the master of vibration, consciousness, and subtle creation. They are not here by accident. They are here because you are here, because your search has brought you to this moment, because something within you is ready to go further. And for the first time, I introduce myself as the quantum architect, someone who helps you reorganize the inner world so the outer world can finally follow. Inspired by the teachings of extraordinary masters whose converging ideas expand the path, ease the journey, and make transformation possible. This is only the first stage. Other remarkable thinkers will be integrated at the exact moment your journey calls for them, as your consciousness opens to new phases. Everything has been intentionally orchestrated to help you reclaim your light, your meaning, and your true potential. Breathe. You are entering a new phase of your own expansion. There are moments in life when nothing seems wrong, yet nothing feels fully right. You wake up on time, follow the schedule, engage with people as expected, and still, a faint sense of distance grows between you and the world you are living in. It is not dramatic. It does not crash into your life like an event. It appears quietly, gently, almost politely. But it persists. This feeling often arrives without words. A vague heaviness, a muted dissatisfaction, a soft awareness that the life outside is no longer matching the life inside. You may function perfectly well, but something in you is slightly out of alignment, like a picture hanging just a little crooked on the wall. Most people never address that feeling. They simply adjust themselves around it, hoping it will fade. But what if this subtle discomfort is not a problem, but a message? What if the moment your world begins to lose its focus is exactly the moment your inner self is asking to be seen? Carl Rogers described this phenomenon as a split between the self you present to the world and the self you truly are. It is the beginning of psychological tension, not because something is wrong with you, but because something inside you is ready to grow. Growth rarely begins in comfort. It begins in friction, in the quiet recognition that you are living smaller, quieter, or safer than your inner truth desires. At the same time, Hélio Couto teaches that these emotional signals also carry a vibrational dimension. Every thought, every feeling, every belief has a frequency. When your internal frequency begins to rise or shift, but your external reality remains unchanged, you experience a vibrational mismatch. It feels like you are moving on the inside while standing still on the outside. That friction too is a message, a call for alignment. So before this journey takes us anywhere, we begin here, with awareness. Awareness is the first architecture of transformation. Before we attempt to fix anything, change anything, or create anything, we must first understand ourselves with honesty, gentleness, and curiosity. And that requires slowing down. Not dramatically, not radically. Just enough to hear the quiet signals underneath the noise of daily life. Just enough to recognize that your discomfort is not punishment, not weakness, not failure, but an invitation. An opening, a doorway into your next version of yourself. You are not lost. You are being asked to pay attention. That is all. This is where the quantum architect enters. Someone who helps you reorganize the inner world so the outer world can finally follow. Inspired by the teachings of extraordinary masters whose converging ideas expand the path, ease the journey, and make transformation possible. The quantum architect does not arrive with a list of instructions. He arrives with a light, illuminating the space within you where truth, emotion, memory, desire, and potential coexist without conflict. His work is not to add weight to your life, but to remove the unnecessary layers so your essence can breathe again. And in this chapter, I invite you to notice something important. There is a part of you that already recognizes these words, not intellectually, but intuitively. Because somewhere within you, There is a deeper intelligence that knows when it is time to expand, when it is time to stop surviving and begin participating in your life with authenticity, presence, and vibrational clarity. Rogers teaches that when a person truly encounters themselves without judgment, the process of healing begins naturally, as if the psyche already knew the way back home. Couto teaches that when a person raises their vibration, their reality rearranges itself to match. At first glance, these ideas may seem unrelated, but they are not. They describe the same movement from two different dimensions. One says, align with who you are. The other says, align with what you vibrate. Together they say, your inner world creates your outer world. This is the foundation of our journey. This is the ground you must stand on before any transformation can truly occur. So take a breath, feel your feet, notice your body, notice the space around you, and notice the small but very real shift happening right now within you. That shift is awareness, and the awareness is the beginning of clarity. This chapter opens the door. The next ones will guide you further, but remember this. If life is feeling out of focus, it is not because you have lost the map. It is because your consciousness is reorganizing itself for the life you are meant to live next, and that is where your expansion truly begins. There comes a moment in everyone's inner journey when awareness stops being a concept and becomes a mirror. Not a mirror of the face, but a mirror of the self, the one you rarely look at directly, the one you often avoid. The one you sometimes fear might reveal something you are not ready to face. But here is the truth that both Carl Rogers and Hélio Couto approach from different angles. The self that you fear facing is the same self that is capable of freeing you. Rogers would say that people suffer because they are divided. On one side, there is who they believe they must be to be loved, accepted, or tolerated. On the other, there is who they truly are. When these two selves drift too far apart, a tension arises. Sometimes it appears as anxiety, sometimes as emotional numbness, sometimes as a slow erosion of meaning. Couto, looking from a vibrational perspective, would describe the same phenomenon in different language. He would say that every time you betray your authentic nature, your frequency lowers, not as punishment, but as physics. When you deny what you feel, your energy contracts. When you suppress your truth, your vibration becomes unstable. And when you force yourself into shapes that do not belong to you, your reality reflects that distortion back to you. So awareness, in this sense, is not just an intellectual process. It is a vibrational process. It is the recognition that your internal architecture is speaking constantly and that ignoring it has a cost. What happens then when you finally choose to listen? It does not begin with dramatic revelations. It begins with small recognitions. You notice the moment you pretend to be fine when something hurts. You notice the moment you diminish your own needs to avoid conflict. You notice the heaviness that arrives every time you silence something important inside you. These recognitions are uncomfortable, yet they are a sign of expansion, not failure. Rogers believed that if a person could approach themselves with unconditional positive regard, viewing even their flaws with compassion, not criticism, then the psyche would naturally begin to reintegrate. Internal fragmentation would dissolve. The self would move toward wholeness. Couto, from the perspective of consciousness, would say that the moment you stop judging yourself, your vibration rises. And as your vibration rises, new possibilities appear, not magically, but naturally. Clarity improves. Intuition sharpens. Life begins to respond not to who you pretend to be, but to who you truly are. This is where the quantum architect becomes a guide rather than an observer. He helps you see the invisible architecture of your inner world. He helps you notice the emotional structures you built long before you understood why. He helps you identify the beliefs, fears, memories, and expectations that shape your perception of reality. Awareness is not about blaming yourself for the structures you built in the past. It is about understanding why they were built and deciding which ones still deserve to stand. Some parts of you were constructed to protect you. Some were constructed to please others. Some were constructed because you did not yet know another way. This chapter invites you to examine these structures gently, as an architect would examine the foundation of a building, not to condemn it, but to understand it. Because once you understand your internal architecture, something powerful happens. The things you fear lose their power. The things you avoid become approachable. And the things that once felt impossible begin to dissolve simply because they no longer belong to who you are becoming. Your consciousness expands not by force, but by awareness. Awareness is the key that unlocks the next level of your vibration. And vibration is the energy that shapes the next chapter of your reality. So today you do not need to fix anything. You do not need to force anything. You only need to acknowledge what is happening inside you. Awareness, honest and compassionate, is enough to shift the entire trajectory of your life. This chapter prepares the ground for what comes next. Soon, we will begin the deeper integration of emotion, vibration, and authenticity. But for now, let your awareness settle. Let it breathe. Let it become the foundation upon which your transformation will be built. There comes a moment in every inner journey when awareness alone is no longer enough. You begin to see the structures inside you, the patterns, the emotional echoes, the beliefs that quietly shape your days. But seeing is only the first step. The next step is reclaiming the frequency from which your life is being created. This is where the worlds of Carl Rogers and Hélio Couto meet in a way few people ever notice. Rogers believed that authentic change begins the moment a person stops resisting their own experience. When they stop fighting the fear, the sadness, the frustration, the emptiness. He taught that acceptance is not resignation. It is the beginning of transformation. Couto would express the same truth in a different language. He would say that resisting what you feel lowers your vibration, that when you push against your emotional reality, your energy collapses and contracts. And it is important not to confuse this energetic collapse, which is contraction, with the collapse of the wave function that Hélio Couto describes so often. Collapsing the wave function is the opposite of contraction. It is the act of truly creating the reality you have projected when the feeling is pure, coherent, and aligned with what you want to manifest. Contraction is self-betrayal, generating a distorted creation. Collapsing the wave function is honoring your authentic vibration and attracting something that matches it. And any reality created from a contracted frequency will mirror that internal collapse in the outer world. Therefore, the first step toward co-creation is simple and deeply challenging. You must stop fighting yourself. You must stop trying to manufacture a version of you that never feels pain, doubt, hesitation, or fear. Life is not shaped by pretending to be light. Life is shaped by allowing yourself to see your own darkness without letting it define who you are. The quantum architect understands this. He sees your emotional field as a blueprint, not as something broken, but as something active, dynamic, responsive. When you deny a feeling, the blueprint distorts. When you honor a feeling, the blueprint realigns. And when you consciously choose a higher vibration, the blueprint begins to reorganize itself. This is not magic. This is psychology and energy working together. And so the question becomes, how do you raise your vibration without suppressing your reality? How do you access a higher emotional frequency while remaining honest about the pain you feel? The answer lies in one principle both Rogers and Couto would agree on. You must recognize your emotion and then choose your direction. Rogers would call it congruence, the alignment between your inner truth and your outer expression. Couto would call it choosing the frequency that resonates with the reality you want to create. The architect sees both as the same movement, the same moment of inner coherence. So today, you begin the practice of reclaiming your frequency. You begin the movement from unconscious reaction to conscious creation. Here is your first exercise. Be still for a moment. Close your eyes if you can. Identify one emotion that has been present in you recently, not the strongest one, not the most painful one, just the most familiar one, something that lingers, something that follows you from day to day. Name it silently. Speak its name internally without judgment. Naming is the beginning of alignment. You are not running from it. You are not resisting it. You are witnessing it. And by witnessing it, you reclaim power over the vibration that emotion has been carrying. Now choose a new frequency. Not joy if that feels impossible, not excitement if that feels untrue. Choose something subtle and reachable, like calm or clarity or openness or safety. Imagine that emotional frequency as a color, a temperature, a tone filling the space around you. Breathe it in as if it were a real presence. This is not imagination. This is direction. You are teaching your emotional field the movement it needs to follow. You are choosing the frequency from which your future will begin to form. Do this gently. Do this daily. Co-creation does not require force. It requires consistency. Now, before we continue, if this message has resonated with you, if you felt even a small shift inside, take a moment to support this work. Like the video. Leave a short comment, even a single word describing what you experienced in this exercise. It helps the channel reach more people who need this message. And if you want to continue this journey with us, subscribe and activate notifications so that each new step of this transformation reaches you the moment it is released. The path is opening, the frequency is rising, and the next chapter will take us even deeper into the power of conscious transformation. There is a turning point in every inner journey when the mind begins to recognize something it can no longer ignore. A quiet mismatch between what you feel and what you express, between what you want and what you live, between who you are and who you have learned to be. Carl Rogers devoted his life to understanding this dissonance. He called it incongruence, the emotional tension that arises when the inner self and the outer life fall out of alignment. It is not dramatic. It is not loud. It is subtle, almost elegant in how it reveals itself. You begin to notice it when simple things drain you, when routines that once felt natural now feel heavy, when conversations demand an effort that once came effortlessly. This tension is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of awakening. Hélio Couto, from a different discipline, speaks of something remarkably similar. He describes the moment when your vibration is no longer compatible with the reality you have built around yourself. Your energy rises or shifts, but the world you inhabit has not rearranged itself yet. This gap between your new frequency and your old structure is the birthplace of discomfort. One speaks of psychology. The other speaks of physics and consciousness. Yet both are describing the same phenomenon. When who you are becomes too big for the version of life you are living, suffering appears as a signal, not a punishment, a compass. The quantum architect works within this exact space. He observes the architecture of your inner world and sees that every misalignment has structure. Every emotional ache has geometry. Every silent dissatisfaction has a blueprint. There's nothing random about the moment in which you begin to feel that something no longer fits. You are being called to rebuild. But the rebuilding does not begin with action. It begins with honesty. Rogers believed that a person cannot change until they are willing to face the truth of their experience without distortion. Couto believed that a person cannot shift their reality until they are willing to tune into a frequency that is coherent with what they want. These two perspectives mirror one another. Congruence is psychological alignment. Coherence is vibrational alignment. Both require truth. Both require awareness. Both require the courage to stop pretending. And here's the paradox that many people struggle with. Real transformation does not begin when you feel strong. It begins when you finally stop performing strength. The moment you stop forcing yourself to be someone you are not, your system relaxes. And a relaxed system can finally change its frequency. This is why numbness appears on the path. Not because you are broken, but because the identity you once used to survive is dissolving. You are in between frequencies. The old one cannot hold you anymore, and the new one is not yet stabilized. It is a place of transition, not failure. When a person reaches this point, most try to escape it. They distract themselves. They rush. They force positivity. They attempt to fix what they feel, but alignment cannot be forced. It can only be revealed. And this is where the architect speaks to you directly, not as a guru, not as a master, but as a witness to your unfolding. He reminds you that internal architecture rearranges itself only when you stop resisting the truth of what you feel. Acceptance raises your psychological coherence. Authenticity raises your vibrational frequency. And when both rise together, life begins to change outwardly, not because you forced it, but because you finally matched it. This chapter prepares you for the first deep restructuring technique in Chapter 6. The exercise you will learn there only works when the foundation is honest, when the emotion you bring to the process is real, when your vibration is not fabricated but chosen with clarity. You are already shifting. And the next step will take you even deeper into co-creation, identity, and the architecture of your new reality. There is a phase in human transformation that almost no one warns you about. It is the moment when the old version of you is dissolving, but the new version has not yet taken shape. You are no longer who you were, and not yet who you are becoming. You are suspended in in-between space, a psychological and vibrational corridor where everything feels strangely muted. Many people mistake this phase for failure. They think something is wrong because they no longer feel excitement, enthusiasm, or the old forms of joy. But Rogers would say that this emotional quietness is a sign that your internal world is reorganizing. When the self is shedding layers of defense, expectation, and false identity, the psyche goes through a temporary stillness, not emptiness, reorientation. Hélio Couto, from another angle, would say that your field is recalibrating. Your vibration has shifted, but your emotional body is still adjusting to that new frequency. The space between frequencies feels like numbness because your system is actively releasing what no longer resonates. This is not a collapse. It is a transition, a changing of internal seasons. The quantum architect sees this phase clearly. He knows that when a structure is being redesigned, there is always a moment when it looks unfinished. A moment when the foundation is exposed, when old frameworks no longer stand, and the new ones have not yet been built. In architecture, this is a necessary stage. In consciousness, it is no different. So if life feels quiet right now, or if the things that used to bring pleasure no longer have the same effect, this may simply mean that your system is updating. Your identity is stretching. Your emotional landscape is preparing for new meaning. This silence is not the absence of life. It is the preparation for it. Rogers would say that your organism is moving toward greater authenticity, even if you cannot see the destination yet. He taught that the human being naturally gravitates toward coherence, toward honesty, toward alignment. And sometimes, before the new truth emerges, the old one must be dissolved without yet being replaced. Couto would explain that your external reality cannot shift until your internal vibration stabilizes. If your emotional field is still oscillating between old beliefs and new desires, the manifestation cannot occur. It is like tuning a radio. If the frequency is between stations, all you hear is static. That static, in human terms, is the numbness so many people fear. But static is not a problem. It is a sign that the station is close. This chapter is an invitation to reinterpret this phase of your journey. What if this discomfort were not a signal of something wrong, but of something right? What if the quietness you feel is the very moment your consciousness stops being controlled by old patterns? What if the dullness is not emotional death, but emotional rebirth waiting for clarity? The architect wants you to understand that this in-between space is sacred. It is here that you loosen your grip on who you think you should be. It is here that your vibration begins to rise without you forcing it. It is here that the future version of you whispers for the first time. Do not rush this stage. Do not try to fill it. Do not try to escape it. Let it breathe. When you stop trying to revive the old patterns and instead allow the internal shift to occur naturally, your system begins to reorganize more quickly. You begin to feel bursts of clarity, insights that appear unexpectedly, a sense of direction emerging slowly, gently, without pressure. This chapter prepares the ground for the next one, where we will begin the first major restructuring of your emotional field. But for now, simply recognize that you are not lost. You are not broken. You are not without purpose. You are becoming. And this in-between space is the bridge that leads you there. There's a moment in every awakening when you begin to sense that the old emotional patterns no longer define you, but the new ones have not yet fully arrived. You can feel your consciousness stretching, as if your inner world were rearranging itself into a shape you do not yet understand. This chapter is about that rearrangement, that quiet reconstruction, where psychology and vibration finally start to speak the same language. Carl Rogers believed that when a person becomes aware of their emotional landscape with honesty and without self-punishment, something in the psyche moves toward integration. The scattered pieces begin to line up. The fog begins to thin. Rogers did not see emotions as obstacles, but as messengers. He taught that every feeling, even the uncomfortable ones, is a signal pointing toward authenticity. Hélio Couto, from a different angle, would explain that emotions are not only psychological signals but vibrational indicators. They show the exact frequency you are emitting at this moment. They reveal whether your energy is expanding or contracting, whether you are aligned with what you want or drifting away from it. From his perspective, awareness is not merely introspection. It is calibration. The quantum architect unites these two worlds. He sees the emotional truth Rogers speaks of and the vibrational truth Couto describes as the same phenomenon viewed from different floors of the same structure. The psyche and the field are not separate. One expresses itself through thought and emotion, the other through resonance and outcome. When both align, creation becomes coherent. But before coherence comes reconstruction. Right now, your inner world is being reassembled. Old emotional circuits are losing power. Old beliefs are dissolving. Old narratives are collapsing, not because you failed, but because they can no longer survive at the level you are stepping into. Rogers would say your organism is rejecting what is incongruent. Couto would say your field is refusing frequencies that no longer match your expansion. You are being rebuilt from the inside out, but rebuilding requires intentional participation. And to assist that process, the architect offers a practice that unifies awareness and vibration. It is the second major exercise of this journey, and it is designed to retrain your emotional field to rise naturally without force. Take a deep breath before we begin. Exercise 2. The emotional frequency reframe. Find a quiet place. Sit with your spine relaxed but tall. Place one hand on your chest and one on your abdomen. Close your eyes if you can. Step 1. Name the emotion you feel right now. Do not judge it. Do not correct it. Do not try to replace it. Just name it. I feel sadness. I feel confusion. I feel numbness. I feel heaviness. Naming is grounding. Naming is respect. Rogers taught that when a person stops fighting their emotional reality, that emotion begins to soften. Step 2. Feel where that emotion lives in your body. Notice its shape, its movement, or its stillness. Do not interpret it, just observe. This is your psyche revealing its geography. Step 3. Imagine a soft field of light around that emotion, not to remove it, not to heal it, not to erase it, simply to give it space. Hélio Couto would say that when you stop resisting an emotional frequency, you stop feeding the collapse. Your energy begins to rise, not because the emotion disappears, but because you no longer constrict around it. Step 4. Inhale slowly and imagine that the breath rises through the emotion instead of avoiding it, as if your breath could expand the container where that emotion is held. Expansion lifts vibration. Expansion invites coherence. Step 5. Speak internally the following sentence. I can feel this without becoming this. This sentence is the bridge between Rogers and Couto. Rogers acknowledges your emotional truth. Couto acknowledges your vibrational independence. The architect brings both together in a single act of consciousness. Repeat this breath. Repeat this sentence. Stay here for 1 minute. You will notice something subtle. The emotion may not vanish, but the tightness around it begins to release. When the tightness releases, your vibration rises. And when your vibration rises, your emotional truth reorganizes itself. This is the restructuring your consciousness has been waiting for. This exercise is not a technique of escape. It is a technique of transformation. It teaches your system to remain open, spacious, and coherent in the presence of discomfort. That is the blueprint of authentic evolution. As you practice this daily, even for a few minutes, you will begin to sense something remarkable. The world outside will start to shift in response to the changes inside. Not because you forced anything, not because you denied anything, but because your field finally reflects your truth rather than your defenses. This chapter is the doorway to coherence, to the moment when emotion and vibration stop competing and begin collaborating. A state where clarity becomes natural and intuition becomes reliable. In the next chapter, we will deepen this reconstruction and prepare you for a turning point. But first, remember this: you do not rise by rejecting what you feel. You rise by expanding enough to hold it without collapsing. That is the beginning of true inner power. If this practice is helping you feel yourself more clearly, pause for a moment and support this space. Your comment and your subscription tell the algorithm that this kind of healing matters, and they allow this message to reach others who are also rebuilding from the inside out. Thank you for walking this path with presence. There comes a moment on this journey when understanding is no longer enough. You have listened, reflected, observed your inner world with increasing clarity. You have begun to recognize the places where life lost its color, where joy faded into routine, where disappointment hardened into silence. But now we reach a turning point, the place where awareness becomes creation. Carl Rogers would tell you, gently and firmly, that transformation begins the moment you stop abandoning yourself, that every emotion you try to suppress continues shaping your life from the shadows, that the only path out is through, and the only way forward is honesty. Hélio Couto would tell you the same truth in a different language. He would say that resisting what you feel lowers your vibration, that when you push against your own emotional reality, your energy collapses inward. And any reality created from a collapse of frequency will reflect that collapse in the external world. But there is an important distinction here. Do not confuse the collapse of your emotional energy with the collapse of the wave function that Couto teaches. When your energy collapses from resistance, you shrink. But when the wave function collapses, you create. You materialize the reality that matches the feeling you genuinely hold. This is the opposite of betraying yourself. This is the moment when your alignment becomes a command to the universe. And here, for the first time, the two teachings converge. Rogers teaches you how to remain present with your inner truth. Couto teaches you how to raise that truth into vibration. And here, as the quantum architect, I unify both principles into a single formula. Emotional honesty is the soil. Vibrational elevation is the seed. Creation is the fruit. And you are the gardener. This is not poetry. It is practice. It is mechanics of consciousness at work. Everything you manifest with genuine feeling, not forced optimism, not fake positivity, but felt alignment, will begin to appear in your reality. Because the universe resonates with coherence. When your inner world stops resisting itself, your frequency stabilizes. When your frequency stabilizes, it rises. And when it rises, it creates. This is the core of co-creation. Not imagination alone. Not intention alone. But emotional coherence, meaning vibrational integrity. And once you launch the intention, you must let go. Let it travel like a wave into the unseen. It will be received, it will be synchronized, it will be calibrated, and it will return to you as physical experience. Now listen carefully, because this matters. In the next chapter, I will give you 3 powerful sentences that will immediately shift your emotional vibration and your psychological alignment. 3 short phrases that work like keys, turning your inner space, opening the field, and preparing you to collapse a new wave function with clarity instead of fear. They will begin with I am, because your identity is the frequency that commands the universe. 2 additional statements will support this shift, expanding the coherence between what you feel and what you create. Use them wisely. They are not affirmations. They are instruments of reality. Prepare yourself. The next chapter changes everything. We have reached the moment the entire journey has been preparing you for. The moment when awareness becomes practice and practice becomes transformation. You have walked through honesty, acceptance, and the stabilization of your emotional field. You have learned how resistance collapses your energy and how coherence raises it again. Now we enter the realm of creation, not metaphorical creation, but creation as an energetic and psychological event. The moment when your identity begins to command the field around you. I will now give you the 3 sentences that realign your frequency, stabilize your emotional center, and open the space for a new wave function to collapse. These are not affirmations. These are acts of identity, and they only work when they are felt, not mechanically repeated. Listen carefully and feel where each one touches inside you. This is our first affirmation. I am the one who returns to myself. This is the foundation. It restores your sovereignty, dissolves fragmentation, and brings your awareness back to the present moment. Rogers would say this is the moment you stop abandoning your inner experience. Couto would say this is the moment your vibration becomes singular, clean, and free of internal conflict. Creation cannot begin while you are divided. Repeat it once more with presence. I am the one who returns to myself. Now we move to the second sentence, the sentence that prepares your energy to rise. I allow my frequency to rise above the story I once believed. Every story you have ever told yourself about who you are, what you can have, what you deserve, carries a vibration. Some stories anchor you, others lift you. This sentence dissolves the old resonance and invites a new one. Rogers frees the self-concept. Couto elevates the field. Together, they open the doorway. Repeat it again with feeling. I allow my frequency to rise above the story I once believed. And now, the third sentence, the sentence of creation. Use it with sincerity and precision, because whatever you feel at the moment you speak, it begins to move toward manifestation. I create from the place where my truth and my vibration meet. Here is alignment. Here is the collapse of the wave function. Not from fear, not from lack, not from the vibration of what is missing, but from the coherence between what you feel and what you choose to generate. Repeat it once more. I create from the place where my truth and my vibration meet. This is where the universe moves. This is where reality bends. And this is where a new future begins to assemble itself around you. Now breathe. Let these sentences settle into your body. Feel the subtle reorganization of your inner space. Feel clarity arriving, heaviness dissolving, silence expanding. You have just taken a step that many people postpone for an entire lifetime. A step that rewrites the direction of your emotional life, that realigns your identity with your creation, and that opens a field you will learn to navigate from this moment onward. Before we close this chapter, I want to speak to you directly as the one who guides this space. If this journey is shifting something inside you, if these ideas are opening doors you did not know were shut, pause for a moment and support this work. Your comment and your subscription tell the algorithm that this kind of depth, healing, and clarity matters. It may seem small, but it changes everything for the life of this channel. And now we arrive at the end of today's path. I am the Quantum Architect, and it has been an honor to walk this chapter with you. Rest in the field you opened today. Let the sentences work. Let your frequency stabilize. Let the universe begin its rearrangement. We will meet again in the next video, where a new layer of your reality will reveal itself. Until then, stay present, stay coherent, stay luminous.